Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wyld. Today we are talking about 5 common mistakes gig workers make during tax season. Tax season is one of the most inevitable things you will experience, especially as a gig worker. The major difference between being a gig worker and a W-2 employee is when you're a W-2 employee, you file your W-2 and you kind of call it a day, whereas an independent contractor, you not only need to file all of your 1099s, but you also have to account for a lot of other things in terms of your taxes. This allows for a lot of opportunity to write off a lot of things, but it also comes with some devastating pitfalls if you are not aware of them. So with that said, we are going over the common mistakes that gig workers make during tax season, how you can prevent making those mistakes yourself, and everything in between. But before we do that, let's go over a quick disclaimer. The content of this video does not contain, as never intended to be, legal, business, financial, tax, or health advice of any kind. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is advised that you conduct your own research and consult qualified professionals before applying anything you find online. Also, thank you to GigTax for verifying this information and making this video possible. Setting aside money for taxes. One of the common pitfalls for gig workers in general is not setting aside a portion of your income for taxes throughout the year. Where W-2 employees have their taxes automatically withheld from their paychecks, gig workers are responsible for managing their own tax obligations. Failing to set aside money regularly can lead to a significant financial burden when it comes to tax season. To avoid this mistake, gig workers should establish a dedicated high-yield savings account and consistently allocate a percentage of income to their taxes within that account. Now, a lot of sites will say that a solid rule of thumb is to set aside 30% of your business income for taxes, but Joseph Mayo, founder of GigTax, has stated that this is a highly conservative number, and a proper allocation of funds for tax season is a conversation that should be had with a tax professional to make sure you're staying on track to your financial goals and stay IRS compliant. It is also important to be aware of every tax you are responsible for. Examples of this are self-employment tax, which is 15.3%, 12.4% being for Social Security, and 2.9% for Medicare, as well as income tax for federal, state, and local wherever these apply. If you're in South Florida like me, or like in any of the other income tax-free states, that doesn't apply to you either, but federal applies to everyone in the US. Underreporting income. Some gig workers inadvertently underreport their income, either due to a lack of understanding or an attempt to reduce their tax liability. Maybe you are receiving some cash payments or tips, no matter how rare they are. Maybe you're doing some off-the-books work on the side, or even working on an exit strategy that is starting to gain momentum. This mistake can have serious consequences, including penalties and interest on unpaid taxes. Remember, now more than ever, it is a bad time to owe the IRS. Inflation has caused higher than normal IRS penalties and interest rates. And let's be honest, Uncle Sam isn't really looking out for us here. Even if all the no-tip customers in the world decided to preach to the skies,
you don't have to report your cash tips to the IRS.
the only person that's gonna hurt at the end of the day is you, not some scummy commenter on TikTok or YouTube.
I never should have let you convince me to lie. You didn't get in trouble for lying. You got in trouble for lying badly.
So keep all records of your income, including the earnings from various platforms and any cash transactions or tips, or whatever side businesses you are running to eventually leave the gig economy, or even some investment or savings accounts. My 1099s came early in the tax season for my independent contractor work, such as UberEats, Grubhub, etc. But from my high yield savings account, my 1099Bs for my investments account have also came a month later. And make sure you keep any 1099 invoices and documentation and maintain accurate records of your income. Deductions and credits. Gig workers often miss out on valuable deductions and credits that can help them reduce their tax liability. Common deductible expenses for gig workers may include mileage, home office expenses, equipment costs. If you're one of those gig workers who have an electric vehicle for gig work, there's a huge amount of of benefits such as the tax credits and deductions. Not to mention some of these gig apps like to provide gig workers with extra cash for having EVs at all. Additionally, they may be eligible for qualified business income, QBI deduction, and other tax credits. Failing to take advantage of these opportunities means potentially paying more taxes than necessary. Have you set up a home office so you can not only capitalize on your tax deductions for your home, but to maximize mileage deductions from driving to your home office as opposed to just commuting back home? As previously mentioned, you must pay self-employment taxes. However, you can deduct half of the 15.3% of self-employment tax during that tax time. Gig workers should stay informed about tax laws and work with a tax professional to identify and claim all eligible deductions and credits. And also do your research on what you can deduct, but be careful to not deduct things that you are not eligible for. That includes federal, state, etc. Neglecting tax payments. Unlike traditional employees, gig workers typically don't have taxes withheld from their earnings throughout the year. Instead, they are responsible for making quarterly tax payments via Schedule C. Neglecting these payments can result in underpayment penalties. Currently, underpayment penalties are 0.5% of the tax owed and is due each month that the tax goes unpaid for a maximum of 25% of the total balance. Imagine losing 25% of your profits to BS like that. To avoid this mistake, gig workers should calculate their estimated tax liability and make timely payments to the IRS. Keeping track of income and expenses throughout the year can help with accurate estimations, and a great tool for that is a mileage and expense tracking app such as QuickBooks Self-Employed and Everlist. There's a bunch of different mileage and expense tracking apps for a lot of different reasons, and they all have different price points and benefits and such. I will make more breakdowns in the future, but today is just not the day. The IRS offers a helpful online tax payment calculator to make this step easy for gig workers. If you can't pay, you can ask for an extension or set up a monthly payment plan called an IRS installment agreement when you file. Mixing personal and business. This is another major area where the IRS looks at in small business audits, including gig workers. Small business owners often deduct certain expenses like cars, cell phones, in-home offices, and travel and meal expenses, but the IRS views many of these expenses as personal and not deductible, unless you can prove that the expenses were business related. That's where proper documentation comes into play here. Now, for gig workers, Doordash, UberEats, and Grubhub, it's rather easy in comparison to other things. Most of the mileage in our cars and the data on our phones is dedicated to business, but meals and travel is going to be harder, especially if most of our work is local. I will also make a separate video on meal deductions and how much you can actually write off. The most important thing to know is that not all expenses are deductible. Just because you incur a specific expense does not automatically mean it is deductible. The expense must be both ordinary and necessary to your business and directly related to the trade or the business. Not filing at all. I know that there's a lot of memes on the internet going around on this, but seriously, this is one of the silliest things in the world that you can do, is not file your taxes at all. Many small businesses put off filing because they can't pay their taxes, and procrastinating like this causes many businesses to run up a large tax bill and penalty. As we said before, the failure to file penalty is 5% per month or partial month. That the return is late for a maximum penalty of 25%. If you file your return more than 60 days late, including extensions, the minimum penalty is 100% of your unpaid tax, or $485, whichever is smaller. And as you can see, it is better to file on time if you can't pay right away. As mentioned above, the IRS receives information about your income through various tax forms. So it isn't like if you don't have anything, they wouldn't know. For example, in recent years, the IRS has identified many non-filers with Form 1099-K or Form 1099-NEC. Also, really think about this. Do you think it is easier for them to target big corporations with lawyers and money that they could fight off the IRS with, or small businesses that they could bully into even more debt for them? Do yourself a favor and just pay your taxes. Not seeking professional help. Navigating tax tax responsibilities for gig work requires diligence and proactive financial management. By avoiding these common tax issues, gig workers can ensure a smoother tax filing process and potentially reduce their overall tax liability. Seeking professional guidance and staying informed about tax laws are crucial steps towards financial success in the gig economy. And is also one of the best financial and business decisions I have made for being in business for myself. Now, going to the wrong tax professional with all of your tax forms can also become a waste of valuable resources and money, which is why GigTax is here to help. Tax season is inevitable, and for every hour spent navigating tax season alone, you miss out on potential earnings, precious moments with loved ones, and expose yourself to financial risks. Recognized as the leading tax preparation service for gig workers, GigTax is dedicated to simplifying the process, saving you time, energy, and money. Founded by Joseph Mayo, a seasoned gig worker with 6,000 deliveries across 6 platforms since 2020, GigTax addresses the overlooked, overcharged, and underserved needs of gig workers in the financial realm. Driven Wyld subscribers can take advantage of an exclusive 60% discount on GigTax's tax prep, and if you act now, the first 3 registrations include complimentary tax preparation. Hold on, let me say that again, just in case I wasn't clear about it. Professional tax prep tailored to your needs. Absolutely free! Secure your spot today with GigTax using the link in the description to register and enter Wyld to maximize your savings and get back to what you do best, making the most amount of money in the least amount of time in the safest possible way. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.